We are so thrilled, so thrilled to have you join us today. We are passionate about empowering brands with innovative marketing solutions. And this webinar is all about sharing actionable insights. And this particular webinar talks about understanding business for marketing growth. Next, Reema, maybe you'd want to share screen now. All right, thank you. So currently we have a series going on all around leveraging marketing for business success. And so if you're interested, kindly reach out. We'll have all our social media links. Feel free to engage. Next page, please, Rima. Yeah, so if you have any friends, family, colleagues you know would really enjoy this webinar, this series, please share the link. It's not too late. We'll wait. I'm just joking. We won't wait. We'll start at 6:05. But yeah, so before then, maybe I could take you guys through some of the objectives we have for this webinar. Next page, please. All right. So after this webinar, we hope that you will have the understanding of basic marketing fundamentals and the importance. We hope you will understand the 7 P's of marketing. We would like to also differentiate marketing and sales. There's really a big, I think it's really a point of contention. What is sales and what is marketing? And a lot of people think it's the same thing, but we'll dive right into that today. We'll also be giving real world examples of successful marketing strategies, actionable marketing tips to drive business growth, which is why we are all here, I assume. And lastly, marketing tips for various industries. So we have great things planned. We hope you will be a lovely audience. Feel free to engage, ask questions, um, raise your hand if you would like to speak or give your opinion, but we will be very responsive on the chat box, so feel free to engage us. Next page, please, Rima. All right, so we'll start with an icebreaker, just to help us understand you a little better, just to get to know our audience, right? So it's a really simple activity. So the first one is it's called rose, thorn, and bud. So what happens is when you're talking about a rose, then give a positive aspect in and around, because this is a marketing webinar, then we can do something positive about the marketing department in your business or the marketing arm in your business. Thorn, a challenge. So which challenge are you currently having regarding marketing? And lastly, bad. So what's a great idea or any thoughts you have around solving the thorn in your side? Right? So to kick us off, I'm going to nominate are there any volunteers, first of all? Any volunteers? No volunteers? Please raise your hand if you'd like to volunteer. Otherwise, I'm just going to choose at random. But I'll start with a member of the team. So I'm going to nominate who could start? So I'll have Jessie. Jessie, go first. So you can tell us a rose, thorn, and bud for you. Introduce yourself briefly and then nominate one more person for because of time.
Good evening, everyone. Pleasure to meet you all. Thank you for the opportunity for speaking, Diana. For the icebreaker.
I'll put you on the spot.
Yeah. Okay. For the rose, um, a small success. Today I'll talk about what has happened today. So, I won't say the specifics, but um, it's concerning electricity and water in the house. So I can say a small success is that electricity came just in time for this webinar. So I'm very fortunate that I'm able to join this day. And thorn, it was that a challenge that I was having before was trying to see a place where I'm going to charge my appliances for this webinar as well. Yeah. Over
Oh,
to you.
wow. You have played it so safe, Jesse. Anyway, I think I'll have one more. One more. Still no volunteers, no one in the chat box. Feel free, by the way, to just put down your thoughts in the chat box. So what's a positive aspect of marketing in your business? What's a current challenge you're having regarding marketing in your business? And lastly, what are some ideas you have in and around that? Yeah, just be set an intention to be open to learning in general. But I think I would also go with Robert. So maybe you could tell us rose, thorn, bud before we move on.
Uh, yes, good evening, everyone. And Diana, thank you for that ambush.
You're
I think
welcome.
for myself, I'll just go maybe on a broader aspect with life. For me, the rose is I just recently got back to working out. So I'm really, really looking forward to seeing how that goes. I've been postponing for quite some time, and I'm like, maybe with the new year and the New Year's resolutions, maybe I can keep up the momentum throughout the year. One bad that I'm looking forward to, hopefully this year, I'm looking to take a trip somewhere, hopefully internationally, as I try and see how I can improve my work-life balance. It is currently 6 o'clock and I'm still in the office. So maybe as I go throughout the year, I'll try and have a little bit more balance and take more trips. A thorn, the reason why I started working out, I was feeling quite unfit. I'm generally a very outdoorsy person. So I felt my, let me say, lack of what's this fitness was really, really holding me back from doing quite a number of things. So that thorn, I'm hoping to turn into a rose very soon. Yeah.
Wishing you all the best, wishing you all the best. I don't believe there's such a thing as work-life balance, but that's a conversation for another day. So I think we'll jump right into the webinar. But before that, I think I'd want to introduce Ardy Marketing and myself. Next slide, please, Reema. Yeah, so my name is Dana Gudu. I currently run operations over at Ardy Marketing. So if you're looking for a guy, I'm your guy. Or lady in this context, right? So Ardy Marketing was established in 2019, and we have spent 5 years crafting innovative strategies that empower businesses to grow, connect, and thrive in a digital fast world, right? And our mission is actually very simple, which is to formulate unique marketing solutions that create meaningful and impactful results for our clients, our customers, right? And how we do it is through various services here and there. So the next slide has a tidbit or a sneak peek into some of the services we offer, but I'm just gonna summarize them into four main pillars is what I'll call them. So the first one is strategy and planning. So here we help take audit of your marketing campaigns. We help you develop the campaigns and then get a plan or a strategy for you to follow. Second thing we do is brand building. So this is content creation, reputation marketing, and anything to do with your brand, creating the brand, building the brand. Third, I would say is growth solutions. So we do things like pay-per-click, paid ads. We help with lead generation, search engine optimization. And then lastly, which I think is one of our biggest strengths, which is coaching and training. So we help you with getting personalized action plans. We do workshops, and we basically train you and your teams to unlock marketing potential. Yeah. So today I'm really, really excited that we get to share these insights with you and kind of showcase the same creativity and strategy we bring to the table and we bring to our clients every day. So we are so glad and so happy to have you. Before that, I think I would want to introduce the speakers of the day. Of course, I'm going to give them time um, just to speak and introduce themselves. However, I'll say something small. So we are honored to have two, and I would say powerhouse marketing experts leading today's session. Together, they bring a wealth of expertise in SME focused marketing strategies. They both work for SMEs or with SMEs. And so I think they just bring a wealth of expertise in that area. Reema, maybe you could go first. So Reema is the founder and CEO of Ardy Marketing, and she's the marketing expert at the Sandbox. She has 15 years of experience and specializes in marketing strategy, training, and reputation marketing. Reema, karibu sana.
Thank you. Thank you, Diana. Wonderful. Excited to be here.
Hi, you're not going to say something small?
Okay, I'm gonna say a lot of things later on, right? So I'm okay with small so that we can carry on. Yeah.
Okay. Sawa, no worries. Joining Reema is also Robert. So Robert is the head of marketing and partnerships at Wylde International, and he also brings over 10 years experience in business development, sales, and strategic communications. Karibu, Robert. Say something small and
Thank
also
you.
tell us a little more about Wylde.
Thank you, Diana. I also have maybe something small to say, or maybe not so small to say, about both myself and Wylde. So, as you rightfully mentioned, I am currently serving as the head of marketing and partnerships at Wylde International. I've been a marketer for the last 12 years or so, but I have been actively working on the Wylde brand for the last 2.5 years. I'm just helping it grow beyond Kenya and East Africa. So for those of you who don't know us, just a brief overview of who Wylde International are. If you look to the bottom left of your screen, you'll see a very wonderful logo. So whenever you see that you just know Wylde is present. So Wylde is a business consulting firm founded in 2004. We've been in business for about 21 years or so. And what we specialize in is the development and execution of strategy for SMEs. And we've been doing that quite successfully for businesses of all sizes and across various sectors. As Diana has mentioned, we are members of an organization called the Sandbox, that is spelled SNDBX. And I will just ask my colleagues to drop the website in the chat section so that you can have a look at that. And basically what the Sandbox is a collection of over 35 experts who are all geared towards providing support to entrepreneurs. As Diana has mentioned, Reema is the marketing expert at the Sandbox, Wylde is the strategy expert at the Sandbox. So if you're an entrepreneur out there and you have a challenge, marketing, legal, HR, strategy, customer service, you name it. If you walk into the Sandbox today, you'll find someone who's ready and willing to help you and support you. Above and beyond that, the great work we've done with SMEs has led us to work with a lot of capacity building partners. So we've worked with quite a number of development partners to try and support entrepreneurs, not just in Kenya, but across Africa. We've worked with companies such as Meta, Brighter Monday, World Resource Institute, that's WRI, Social Business, just to name a few. We also have a very strong component of business coaching. We firmly believe in working with our clients and program participants to ensure that whatever they absorb or consume in our sessions, they are actually able to execute that moving forward. We also have a very strong component of access to finance, where we help entrepreneurs get the right capital the right capital from the right partners. So we do work with quite a number of financial partners just to support entrepreneurs who are looking for any form of financing. Finally, we do quite a bit of research. We typically do industry sector related researches. For the last 3-4 years, or three or so years, we've done research around insurance, and basically this research is supposed to help SMEs and all stakeholders within those particular sectors to make more informed decisions that can support or help make those sectors a little bit better. So I know I've said a lot, but fundamentally what Wylde does is supports entrepreneurs, and which is why we are also here today working with Ardy Marketing on this. So I think that is my something small. Let me hand it back to Diana.
After mouthfuls and mouthfuls, anyway. Thank you so much, Robert. So yeah, I think now I'll just hand it over to the speakers. However, please feel free to ask questions. Our chat box is open. The team will be interacting with any questions you ask. So yeah, don't sit with a burning question or anything. Yeah, so it's time for you to shine, my lovely speakers.
Thank you so much, Diana. That was really wonderful. I think we're excited to actually, jump into this conversation. And like Diana said, please feel free to put questions in the chat as we go along. We'll be looking at that. Diana's going to help us out as well to just stop us and say, hey guys, by the way, there's some questions. So we're going to do that. We're not going to have a Q&A session at the end. So feel free to just keep asking questions as we go along, right? So where do we start with marketing for businesses? And there's a lot we're going to say, so that's why I'm just going to keep my breath for that. So where do we start? So I'm going to also keep this very, very interactive, guys. So two things I'd really would help, which is one, you can either unmute yourself and answer questions, and two, you can put it on the chat, and that'll also help as part of interaction. So first question for the day is, can anybody tell me what are these brands that are over here? You can name one, you can name two, you can name all three. Someone was saying something.
Apple, Nike, and Android.
Apple, Nike, and?
Android.
And Android. Wow. Thanks, John. How are you doing? Long time no see.
I'm well, thanks.
Okay, fantastic. Welcome. And you're absolutely right. But how did you know about that? How did you know about, these particular brands? There's no name here. That we haven't put any particular words or the names. How did you know about any of these brands?
I know the logos, so I'm familiar with the logos.
People are familiar with your logos. Okay, wonderful. And just because it's something that we're working with throughout, right? And I'm gonna ask another question. How does like, for example, the first one here, how does Apple or Nike or Android? So just choose one particular brand and tell me what kind of emotion does it evoke in you?
Nike, it evokes action. I remember their slogan was "Just do it."
Just do it, right? So go into action. That's lovely. Anybody else? Anybody else with what does that evoke in you? Any of the three brands?
Reema, I think for me, the one on the left invokes fear.
Why fear?
I think I went to one of their stores once and I asked for the pricing. Then I was like, yes, perhaps I need to work a little bit harder in life to be able to.
To pay for it.
Yes.
I like that. Anybody else?
Hi.
Hi.
Okay, for me, the Apple logo it's like it's telling me luxury because most of the Apple things are expensive. So if you see an Apple or an Apple store, like that's very expensive. So
Expensive, luxury, right?
yes, yes,
But quality, does it evoke quality?
yes. Because
Evokes quality
if
as
you're
well,
going
right?
to say something that is luxurious and expensive, the quality has to be top notch.
Wonderful, wonderful. Chasubira is saying Apple and Nike, I'm not boarding or buying.
I'm with
So
Kiesubiri.
Chasubira is Android dumb, just like Robert. I like that. I like that. And so it segues into explaining how brands can be recognized. So brand identity is from brand being recognized, not just for its form or the logo that we're mentioning, but also by so many different things that over a period of time, they have actually been able to put into our lives, put in front of us a certain perception, a certain idea, and a certain promise. And Robert's going to talk a little bit about that, right? And it's not just about that logo. You can see that we didn't put any name to this, but everyone or a lot of the people that participated were able to say that, oh, I like Bernard. Bernard said Apple evokes security. You see, it evokes something inside of us, an emotion inside of us that over a period of time that has actually brought it up. A lot of us as smaller brands or smaller companies, we're just starting to build ourselves. So a brand is not just the image, it's the graphic, if you will. It's not just the color. It's not just anything. It's a culture. It's a brand. It's a promise. And it's actually built over time, right? Robert, can you, like, you've talked about Android. So maybe just give us a guidance around even as you're building the business and in business strategy, because business doesn't stand alone, marketing doesn't stand alone, business doesn't stand alone. How do we put that together and maybe guide us around that with our first solid tip?
Yeah, thank you, Reema. I think one thing that I liked when you mentioned about brand identity is the aspect of brand promise. And you can see the logo on the left has quite a very positive reception, even when you look at the chat section with the audience. And one interesting thing that I saw, maybe just a way to think about brand promise and how far it can extend. There's once I saw something about, for example, if you take two brands like Apple and Hilton, if today you had Apple was opening a hotel and they're going into the hotel business, what would immediately come to your mind? You'd most likely be thinking, technology. It's perhaps going to be a very high-tech hotel, cutting edge, minimalistic, you name it. Everything that you associate with that logo that you see on the left. But in the opposite direction, if let's say Hilton, you had Hilton today is launching or getting into the phone business, okay, they're a good brand, but you're not necessarily really confident they're going to penetrate the phone market, right? And that's what ties into the whole aspect for brand promise. The brand is so strong that every time you see that identity, there's something that you associate with it. Now, brands and brand promise don't go, they're not just things on paper. The reason why Apple is trusted that much is because it has years of experience, it has years of delivery, it's proven itself in the market. So I think one thing that people always look at and perhaps don't consider from the aspect of those two things going hand in hand is, as much as you have your brand identity, there's something that you're promising your customers, and you have to find a very effective and consistent way to always deliver that. And that way, whenever someone sees that brand, there's something that automatically comes to them without you thinking too much, or without the client or the customer thinking too much about, questions around your integrity or whether you'll be able to deliver. And even if you look at it, maybe at brands that came up the other day, but the brand equity is so strong and the brand identity is so strong. For example, you see the Tesla brand with Elon Musk behind it. He has single-handedly been able to convince everyone that whatever he touches, is gold.
Gold.
The brand
Yeah.
identity for that is so strong that he can come up with a truck that looks like a box, but everyone believes it's the next coming of a truck. And one would argue everything that he touches turns into gold, including the US election, but that's a different discussion altogether. But
Going too high.
nonetheless, the fact that he's associated with that brand, everyone believes that, this brand is going to be cutting edge, this brand is going to deliver. Yeah, and I think people always have to make that correlation whenever you're looking at brands. There has to be something, and there's a lot that goes behind supporting that particular brand.
Right. And how does a brand get to be known? You see, we say brand awareness. We see in marketing, we say, let's create some brand awareness. Does this happen overnight? How long does it take? What is a ballpark figure?
I just think it takes time. And I think sometimes you get lucky, just like
Yeah.
with anything, and you're able to hit the market very, very quickly and people trust you.
Yeah.
But then again, it becomes, if you don't have processes to support you or to support that overnight sensation or overnight success, you may run into a bit of challenges. And maybe just to bring it home, I don't know whether any of you have been following. There's this lady who was doing quite well, I think, in the fashion space and equipment. I think she's called Chico. And just overnight, I think in the last quarter or so, I mean, she had quite a bit of success, quite a bit of popularity. But when it came now to the aspect of now delivery, we did see quite a number of people coming out and saying, look, I ordered this, I didn't get this. So you have a very strong brand that people have associated with affordability, and they're really, really craving for your brand. But on the back end as well, if you don't have the systems and the structures to support that, then you could end up hurting yourself much, much, much more than you ever thought. In fact, that success now becomes a burden because it becomes too much, it becomes too overwhelming. So I think my advice to everyone would be brand equity, brand identity and brand trust takes quite a bit of time, and it happens organically. If you're doing the right thing, if you're serving people correctly, if you're marketing the right way, more often than not, you'll enjoy good brand trust and brand trust that lasts for quite some time, that you can milk and milk and milk for years to come.
For years to come, but it has to be consistent. The consistency is important, or if there is a mistake and human is to err, how quickly do you clean it up as well to get back to your integrity as a brand, right? So any brand, whether it's a small business or a large business, or you're a marketer, a young marketer that's actually doing something for a brand or for a company, because a company is a brand on its own, right? How are you actually building that up for them over a period of time consistently and making sure that everything is actually working? And as we go along, you'll start to understand that, right? So I'm just going to tell you a few things that like a business, the role of marketing in a business, because marketing doesn't stand alone. The business strategy that is there for the business is what now we as marketers would then take in and then deliver on the promise that the strategy has, right? So first and foremost, one of the things that we say is marketing actually helps in leading a consumer's perception towards a product or a service. Again, the same way that we've talked about Nike and Android and any other brand. If for example, I tell you the name Safaricom or a green color comes in front of you, whatever that emotion is, I would really like you to write that down on the chat box, and I shall have a look at that. But there's a certain perception, and the perception is also not just from the things that you say, it's the things that happen or the things are being done, right? So that's what That's the strength of the marketing itself. It helps identify customer segments. Who are we selling to? All right. Who are those people that we're selling to? What do they look like? And we're going to go through that in a little while as well. What is the value? What's the process of creating, communicating, delivering, exchanging value for your customers? The point is value. People don't buy a product or a service. People buy the value that that product or service or the benefit that product or service brings to us. So think about it in that way. We build a brand. We've just talked about creating trust, positioning ourselves and evoking that emotion. We help to connect with that target audience. We help create or generate leads from this particular market that we're segmented into. We communicate different things. You know, we educate and communicate is part of our entire thing. And the biggest thing in here is, how do we do that? Through market research. Together with sales, we try and keep an ear on the ground to try and understand, are there any new trends that have come up? Is there anything that is changing or pivoting in the market? Do we need to keep in touch with that? Should we ask our consumers or our audience that what used to help them even 6 months ago, has that changed now? And how can we actually help them? Or is there a need that has actually sort of slightly shifted, for example, right? And one thing that we always forget as well is customer acquisition. So people know marketing as customer acquisition and not particularly around customer retention. But customer retention is a really, really crucial part of what we do. Company doesn't grow if we're not able to retain our customers and get new customers, right? And so marketing has a really, really big role in the way the business is actually running, okay? So Robert's going to take us through real quick some of the 7 P's of marketing, and as we keep going with the sessions today.
Yeah, thank you, Reema. When I started my marketing profession, we only used to look at the 4 P's of marketing. Now I see there are 7. I see some other people saying they're 11. I also saw somewhere else who are saying they're 14. Pretty soon we'll be at 20. So it can be quite technical. But really, what the marketing mix is supposed to be, it's just supposed to be a cheat sheet in essence to make you or help you keep track of what are your marketing drivers. So Reema mentioned something important, and maybe I could just circle back to that before I jump into the marketing mix. And that is the fact that marketing and marketing strategies do not operate in a vacuum. A marketing strategy stems from an overall company strategy.
Correct.
So we don't create marketing strategies or marketing initiatives from the air. It always has to be in the context or in the view of the overall company strategy that you want to do. You cannot have a company objective of having 10% market share and you have a budget of 1,000 shillings. Those two don't correlate. Similarly, whenever you're looking at your marketing or maybe your marketing strategy, there's so many other components and moving parts that you need to look at, that the 7 P's, or rather the 4 P's, 11 P's, however many P's that you want to look at, help you keep track of, so that whatever you're doing is actually harmonized and actually in line with the common or the greater objective. So some, or let me say the fathers or the godfathers of the P's of marketing, the first one was product. Whenever you're doing anything in marketing, you have to look at your products. You have to have a very, very clear understanding of your product, and maybe, dare I say, you have to have a very, very good understanding of what problem that product is solving in the market. If you're looking at a spectrum of products, you also have to look at it from a seasonal perspective and say, look, based off the customers that you're targeting, what's the right time to be giving discounts? What's the time to be shifting your pricing? Your product and all that. The second P.
Innovating. So
Sorry?
sometimes innovation actually really helps as part of product.
Yeah, exactly. And the only way you can innovate is if you start with the customer first. We do work with a lot of businesses, and one of the things that you tend to see is you tend to innovate for yourselves and your team. You sit in a strategy meeting and you're there saying, look, I think the client needs this. And you go ahead and do all this work and you do product development. And then when you finally present it to your client or your market, no one is interested, and maybe no one even asked for that particular feature. So we always advise people to always go back to the client and identify the gaps there, and then now work towards doing better product development. And that goes the same with price, which is the second P of marketing. Whenever you're looking at your prices, you always have to look at it from the point of view of your customer, right? If you're targeting a particular segment, if you're targeting a particular target audience, are they able to afford that particular product, right? So you've done very good product development, but who you are initially targeting, those prices don't match. So automatically there you have a big problem with your marketing. You may have a very good product, but if no one can afford it, it will collect dust in your shelves. Promotion, what channels are you going to use? And this is why I'm saying, you always have to have the view of your overall company strategy whenever you're doing your marketing. So for example, if you're a B2B company, right, there's some certain channels that will work better for you because maybe you need to be physically or maybe in touch with your clients so that you can explain your solution, do your pitches. So you may not necessarily go after or use certain channels. If you're a B2C company, you will have different strategies and different channels that can get you a wider market or a bigger market. So those definitions of whether you're a B2B or a B2C company may not happen at the marketing level. They're happening at the overall company strategy level, and then cascaded down to the granular level as to where now you're seeing which particular channel that you're going to use. But even as I say, the 4 Ps of marketing, we started with the 4, and now we're at the 7. One thing that we've also noticed, even when we're working with companies, is companies tend to shift from the 4 Ps to the 7 Ps as they grow as well. So it's something that happens naturally at the same time. So you'll find when you're a small startup, you're starting in the game, you're only looking at those 4 aspects, right? You're only looking at your place, you're only looking at your product, your price, place, promotion, But as you keep on growing, then you need to start having conversations around, your processes. If you are offering or guaranteeing certain things in your marketing processes, say, for example, you're guaranteeing, look, I can do a 5-minute delivery or 10-minute delivery of pizza, for example, right? The processes that go behind that really, really need to support that. Otherwise, you'll have disgruntled customers. And I can assure you, an angry customer can really, really do damage to your reputation. So as you keep on growing, you need to ask yourself those questions, are your processes able to support whatever you're marketing, right? If you look at one of the P's as well, people, are your people well trained, right? You're doing fantastic marketing, you're doing fantastic digital marketing, you're all over the place. Whenever we turn left or right, we are seeing Reema's pizzas. But when Reema is about to deliver, because she's assured us that she can deliver the pizza in 10 minutes, when it's time for delivery, we look at our clock, it's 12, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, the pizza arrives cold. And after that, for one, we're not eating any more of Reema's pizza. And more importantly, after that, we are just going to badmouth her pizza, right? So again, these things help us contextualize what is important, even as we grow as businesses. And processes, I would say, are at the center of that. Processes, processes, processes. Processes can make you or break you. And it's something I really, really encourage businesses to look at, even as they're expanding.
Absolutely.
I don't know whether you have anything to add, Reema, with
I think the
with
last bit I'm going to add around that is the physical evidence, right? Physical evidence can be in 2 ways. One is that you actually exist where you say you exist. So for example, Reema and Robert are at the Sandbox, and Sandbox is on Chania Avenue, CMS Africa. So when you come there and you ask for Robert or Reema, you find us there. That's one physical evidence, right? We say what we are doing. And the second part is the same thing that Robert is saying, that the evidence is there that we deliver in 10 minutes, right? So what are your customers saying about that? So your feedback and your reviews and your testimonials from your customers are a really important part of credibility. So promotions do visibility. You are visible out there, but the credibility is what actually then converts customers at a faster pace. So you need both aspects of marketing. And even in Ardy Marketing, one of the things that we say as part of your strategy is have visibility. That's great. Find out where the best place to actually promote your stuff to your customers is going to be, especially your target audience, but have credibility around it as well, because that is really, really important. So I think that's a crucial part of this entire thing as well, right? Which goes us to, and I love the question, and I think I've answered one of the questions on the chat, which is, which one was it? How effectively educate your target audience about your new product category and create demand in the market that is unfamiliar with it. So I'm just going to start with the aspect of, first of all, the target audience. Why is that important for us is because if we do not understand who our audience is or who are we selling to, what are their pain points? What are their challenges? How do they want to achieve? What are their needs? What do they want to achieve? Do they have like an entire family? Is there a one income family? Are they female? Are they male? Do they have children? Do they have husbands? Do they have whatever? There's all this information that we get from our customers are a crucial part of understanding, like, where are we at in terms of how am I going to respond to you or communicate to you or message to you about whether it's a new product, it's a completely new product altogether. Testimonials, remember I've said that, find somebody that already uses it, give it even for free, which is why freemiums come in, right? So that's another marketing strategy that comes up, which is give someone a free aspect of trying to utilize and then use that review and testimonial to actually attract customers similar to that as well, right? But it's important to understand your target audience for you to do anything in marketing, our basic. And if you haven't done this already, create buyer personas, ask your customers, do the research around understanding who that target audience is. And I love the Robert, you had a really quickly, I think you need to summarize this part because we're running out of time. But summarize that the Cambridge Analytica example that you gave, and I just love that. That brings it kind of to life as well, right?
Yeah, I think for me, and from where I sit and from what I've seen, understanding your customer, it's really, really impossible to, number one, speak to someone who you don't understand, and number two, to solution for them if you don't understand them. And even if you look at how we go about in our day-to-day lives, it's much, much easier for me to have a conversation with you, Reema, if I know whether you have a child or not, whether you're married or not, whether you like hiking or not, and whether you like biking or not. If I have that information, then there's a wide array of things that we can spark a conversation on and hopefully connect on a much deeper level. But one of the interesting things, I think I mentioned this to you in passing, I was watching a documentary called The Great Hack. I'm sure most of you have seen that. And basically, it was a documentary around, election fraud and how the various elections around the world were simply being manipulated. And one of the things that really, really struck me in that documentary, one of the people who was in charge of that manipulation, at one point in time was saying that they had about 5,000 data points on each user, or let me say each actor for that matter. And for the audience to get a bit more perspective, when I say 5,000 data points, so when I say, for example, Robert likes the color red, that's one data point. Robert is a man, that's another data point. Can you imagine someone having 5,000 data points on you? I can almost bet if even I had a partner who had 5,000 data points about me or knew 5,000 facts about me, life would be much, much easier because they understand me more than I understand myself. Now, in the context of the documentary, what that information was being used for, was not necessarily for the right things. But I think as a marketer, when I sit back, I'm just in awe that you could have that many data points about someone and that much information about someone. Because when you have that kind of information, and when I understand Reema to that extent, that I have 5,000 data points on her, I can tailor my marketing in ways that, actually ensure that I connect with her on a much, much, much deeper level. If she likes to read emails at 10 p.m. at night, I won't bother sending her emails at midday. I will optimize my operations and optimize whatever I'm doing to ensure that I'm hitting Reema at the right spots at the right time. And maybe that's what I think businesses need to understand whenever we are saying understanding your customer, right? It's going in depth so that you can speak to them and solution for them in ways that, you can't even imagine.
And, we're going to obviously talk about this in a bit more in depth during our workshop that's coming up at the end of March. But, if there's one thing you go away with today is understand your customer, right? And that really just a game changer for you as well. And I love that. Thanks, Robert, for the insight that you've given to us. A lot of times also that what we realized is sales and marketing are like if someone says, oh, I'm looking for a marketer, a lot of times they're saying they're looking for a salesperson, right? Or they collapse in such a way that we say sales and marketing is put together, right? We have our own strengths. So sales has its own strength and marketing has its own strength. One of the things that we've also seen the roles that marketing also create, and one of which is creating the awareness to the possible or the correct target audience and generate those leads such that now sales teams can then convert them, which is like the last mile of the funnel, right? And in business, as well, you're doing also your business strategy sessions, Robert, and of course, because you're a marketing guru at this as well. How does that funnel work for anybody, right? Marketing, I know, also nurtures, but how do we do that? How do you differentiate between sales and marketing?
Yeah, so I think for most SMEs, and especially most SMEs in Kenya, the reason why they bundle up sales and marketing is maybe more of a survival tactic than anything. Most SMEs cannot afford to have a sales manager and a marketing manager as two different roles. So they bring in everyone and say, look, I've actually seen job descriptions that I think that have about 20 or 25 tasks because 15 of them are sales, 10 of them are marketing. But it's and we understand it. I like to say you always have to look at everything in the context that we are in. And similarly, when you look at sales and marketing, one thing that SMEs, or we really drive SMEs to look at, is to look at it as one cohesive, let me say, process, right? So this is where you have conversations with SMEs about their sales funnel, for example. And a lot of SMEs that you deal with, and typically just all businesses, you're in the business of making money. So automatically you want to make profits and you want to see sales going up. But a lot of SMEs fail to look at the process that has to happen before that sale is reached. And that's where things like the sales funnel come in. So you would appreciate things like, for example, for every maybe 1,000 customers that you're in touch with, maybe 10 are the ones who are going to convert. And when you look at it from that perspective, then you start asking your questions. You start asking yourself questions like, what made these 10 convert? What touch points did they have, right? So for example, maybe the first time they interacted with me, it was an email, right? Then after that, I sent them a text. Then after that, I called them. And then 2 months down the line, they converted into a sale. So with that information and with that data, I can come back and say, look, maybe I need to invest in more call agents, because once I called them and I was able to explain my solution a little bit better, then they were able to convert. So the conversation moves from just looking at it, I just want sales, but looking at it from a greater perspective and asking yourself those critical questions that go into, how did this sale happen? And more often than not, that sale cannot happen without marketing, right? And that's why we are saying you always have to have a view of the entire process. You will start asking yourself questions like, why am I just doing 10? Why can't I do 50, right? And when you look at the top of the funnel, you'll then start to ask yourself, okay, where did these 1,000 come from? Did they come from, Reema referring them to me? So maybe I should do a referral code to all the people that I've previously worked with. Did they come from because I had an influencer in my neighborhood? I've also seen some interesting marketing tactics, perhaps I think they're borderline unethical, where I see people walking around with billboards in the scorching sun especially in January, and it's a billboard that you should, visit a particular shop. Not the easiest job, but,
No, it's not. Yeah.
nonetheless, a form of marketing. So you realize maybe from that billboard, 100 people came. Maybe you should have 1,000 of those people walking around the city and promoting your products and
Yeah,
services.
if it makes sense. Because you see,
Yeah.
the other thing I want to put in here is marketing is about testing a lot of different things and testing what is really working well, right? So what is working better? Is this working better? That working better? But as what I've realized also is a lot of salespeople say that if marketing is done well and the brand is aware of being aware in the right spaces or the right target audiences, when they walk into a space and they say, I am from Ardy Marketing or I'm from Wylde International, they're like, oh yeah, I know you guys, come on in, here's my marketing manager, here's my CEO, let's have a chat, versus who are you again? No, wait. Let's book you an appointment. Can you please send your company profile first before we even do anything, right? So marketing is really important to even help the salesperson do their bit of the sales and even like presentation or conversion and so on, right? So yeah, so just that distinction between sales and marketing is really, really important. So if you like this kind of content that we're doing right now, just to give you an overview, I mean, we're going to go into industry specific marketing tips just after this, but I want to let you know that we are going to do a series of webinars this year. The next one is going to be at the end of February. It's going to be more about, again, consumer behavior. How can we target better? How can we increase ourselves and so on? And we've got our market research expert, Akinyi of Sandbox, also who's going to be joining us. I think I saw her sneaking into this webinar at some point. You can say hey in the chat, but please feel free. I'll also ask the team to put in on the chat the link to this particular webinar. So feel free to actually join us. We're going to get more insights around different things. We've got, like I said, a workshop at the end of this quarter. It's going to be end of March. And we're going to be generally talking about, again, everything that we talked about, but more in depth on how to generate leads. That's the biggest problem, Robert, that we found, that the businesses do not know how to generate leads in bulk, for example, right? How do you optimize that lead generation? And what are the marketing efforts that go into that? And so we're going to be exploring that a little bit more in detail, again, more practical, with the people who are actually going to be coming. There are few slots. We're not opening slots to everybody. But if you're a business or even a young marketer and you want to come part of this, please feel free to do that. And then, of course, Wylde International also has a webinar tomorrow, actually. And there's a special prize in here for somebody who wants to come and be part of this. This is Business Game Plan. So it's a workshop. It's a virtual workshop that actually talks about how you can be able to plan for a successful year of business for this year. So please feel free and also put that. The links are all going to be on the chat, so feel free to do that. We're going to jump into, and I'm just wondering, I know we've got 7 minutes, but I'm going to request people in here to give us 10 more minutes, just so as we're talking about industry examples of marketing, right? Because I think we're going to get into the meat of the matter and break down some of the things that we've actually talked about right now. Starting with our first industry, which is fashion. Fashion, we've got two brands. So of course, we've got one brand, which is an international brand. It's called Patagonia. I don't know if anybody knows about them. But one of the things that we've realized as part of a marketing strategy is something called ESG, all right? So how do you environmental sustainability governance? It's not just a CSR activity at the end of a year or somewhere in between where you go and do a donation. It's how you live your entire business life as a culture. And Patagonia is one of them, because that is what is making brands separate or stand out from any other brand, right? Another example in fashion is Vivo, right? As soon as you see the brand, there's so many things that come in from how they started to what they do to how they're actually marketing to using locally sourced material to using things that evoke into the psyche of an African person, and I love this particular brand, and I'd love to also hear from people what kind of industries you want us to talk about. Of course, that should be always helpful. um, Robert, do you want to jump in and say anything about this particular fashion industry in terms of strategy, in terms of how do you think they've actually positioned themselves in the market?
Yeah, I think when you look at the fashion industry, it's one of those industries where marketing research really is a key aspect. So in the fashion industry, you have those kind of like seasonal changes. For example, you'd have a winter collection, you'd have a summer collection, and you can't be innovating and marketing within those particular seasons. You have to have worked backwards or been quite proactive with your research and your market trends to figure out what is coming next. But also, I think what has helped brands, for example, like Vivo, is the aspect that we're talking about for brand promise. So, for example, when you say, you're building clothes for Africans, by Africans, do these clothes actually resemble the bodies of African women, for example, right?
Yeah.
I am not an African woman myself. I cannot speak to the plights of African women. In fact,
We're well endowed.
I'm not very good with fashion myself. It's now when I'm picking up steam. I've always been one step behind with my fashion. In fact, in my neighborhood, I was one of the last people who stopped wearing or was wearing baggy jeans, School of Hard Knocks. I just went to the neighborhood one day and everyone was not wearing baggy jeans and baggy t-shirts anymore. And that was it. So I thank God that I'm not in the fashion industry, but I do appreciate the amount of work and the amount of thought that goes into making sure that these things sell and that customers are happy with the product. Yeah.
Absolutely, and you're speaking bang on again, relating it back to understanding your target audience. One of the things that Vivo does is understand that African fashion or African women are well endowed, and it's fine. Where this is what we is. The Western spaces have actually sort of been shoving to us that, oh, you have to be like 8 size 10. But bringing out the fact that you're just beautiful as you are, and here is something that will even make you look fantastic. And I think that really speaks to the target audience that they're actually speaking to as well, right? The other thing about this that I want to talk about in terms of the target audiences is you can see there's already 2 different trends in Vivo, right? One is you've got a fast fashion, it's coming through quickly, new designs are coming up, you want to keep up with those. And then there is a second target audience, which is people like me, who, as soon as there's a 30% or 40% off, I'm going to be getting into Vivo to that discount rack and picking whatever it is that I'm actually picking up from there, right? So it's also so as a brand, you can have several different segments of people, and how are you then speaking to those particular different segments is also crucial and important, right? So that's what actually, sort of brings that for me as well. Energy. So here's another brand that Coco, that's a really interesting brand that does cooking fuel for Kenyan brands out there. Again, they've put themselves on the global market, so you can global market, because you can see, like, for example, on the side it says World Economic Forum. So people are now getting to know about what they do. It's about the brand building. We keep saying brand building, but what are the places that you want to put your name out there so that people can get to know about you, right? So this is another different example for energy, but then utilizing the fact that ESG is not just a CSR activity. ESG is a way of living within your company, and it's a really big marketing strategy within organizations. We have just in the last couple of years done marketing trainings for climate action or youth in climate. So they're starting up businesses in and around making sure that people understand that, look, our business is to make sure that yes, we make a profit, but two, we are looking out for the environment as well, right? So the triple bottom line. Yeah, triple bottom line on that. Manufacturing. Again, this is an example of manufacturing in the ESG. I know I'm stressing around about ESG quite a bit, but I feel like sustainability goals, even within your organizations, you need to put that into place. Look up ESG and look at that. Robert, how about speaking a little bit about maybe this brand and of course a couple of other brands that are coming up? What
Yeah,
comes out from you? Yeah.
I think what I think everyone needs to understand, and then it's something that perhaps we all know, is that the consumer that we are, or the consumers that we're all trying to target are much, much smarter. So especially in manufacturing, there's a lot of information out there. So people want to know more about how their product was made. So things like, was it sourced from the right material? Was it sourced from organic products? What's the composition of those products? How will those products affect me? How will they affect my children? So whenever now we are looking at maybe even manufacturing, or, especially when you're looking at food products, a lot of that is around maybe creating a perception that those products are safe, which was not the case maybe 10 or 15 years ago. I remember we just used to go, you pick the oil from the shelf purely based off,
Yeah.
was it the cheapest one? Or maybe this is what you and your parents and your grandmother have been using for years. But now
Yes.
you actually turn the label and look, okay, what kind of chemicals were used to actually make this particular product, which I think is something that people really needed to be conscious about. Consumers are not dumb. Don't sell something that you're not necessarily doing. Make sure that you're authentic, make sure that they're aware. If they like your product, they'll buy it. But I think if you lie to them, you may have a tough time marketing, not just in manufacturing, but in all other industries.
And all in the industries. And again, what you're saying is consumers have become way brighter. They're being very picky about what brand they want to actually consume. And one of the things that is coming up quite a bit, and even in the oil business, is fine, you're okay with, like, for example, any seed oils, but people are going away from seed oils. There's a lot of research around that as well. So research in marketing is important, and that makes a direct impact on the way we do business as well, right? So keep that in mind, guys. Marketing has a big role in the way business is done. A brand that has given butter a run for its money. I know butter, everyone feels like butter is a local brand, but butter is an international brand. On its own has a really good way of looking at or penetrating local markets. Like, so butter has made a name within, for example, the Kenyan market, where we think that, this is just us, this is who we are. But even here, you can see, like, it's connecting with your audience. It's seeing what would people need in a particular season, for example. Are we talking to them? Is antifungal and genuine leather and quality and durability an important part of what our customers are looking for, whether it's a direct customer or indirect customer, which is what we call the primary and secondary customer. In this case, the child doesn't necessarily buy the shoes, but the parent who actually buys this shoes for the child, those are important factors for them, for example. And so this, for example, shows that aspect of how Umoja shoes have put that into play. Do you want to add anything to this before I move to the next one?
No, I think you've been able to capture everything. I think brands like this and brands like Butter have created a brand or an image of dependability, which is why even when we grow from our tafis, we still go to Butter to try and see whether we can get some good work shoes, get some good sandals. And every time I'm looking to buy shoes, the first place I'll try is Butter. And if I can't, and if I can't find it there, then that's when I'll go. And also one thing that has to be said, you remember what we're talking about, the piece of marketing, when we're talking about what's this, place and physical evidence. Butter is everywhere. I can literally leave my the office right now if my shoes were spoiled and walk to a couple of meters and find butter there. So credit to them as well. I think they've made it very, very accessible, and also that image of dependability. I think has really, they've done a very good job, and I think that's what Umoja is also trying to sort of get into as well. Yeah.
Wonderful. I love it. I'm laughing especially because of the fact that this exact thing that you're saying right now has happened to me. I was going to meet my soon to be, now they're my in-laws, but soon to be in-laws, and I had a shoe moment, and it was a Sunday and Bata was open. So we went directly to a Bata shop and then purchased a pair of shoes so that I don't look bad when I go to meet my in-laws for the first time. And that was so funny, but they helped.
It
They
sounds
opened
it sounds like an advertisement. You should send Butter a letter thanking them for for your fiance or for your husband.
Yeah, now my husband, they saved my life. So here again, a good retail brand that's actually coming up in the pharma industry, connecting with the target audience, connecting with the market, really like attracting people to be loyal in different ways and knowing what is important to them. So like, for example, checking BMIs, checking sugars, checking stuff is really important. Then, how do we actually keep bringing people and saying, okay, look, you know what, next purchase, this is going to be free. Next purchase, this is what's going to happen. And that really brings people back to you. Again, you have to be genuine. As a brand, you have to be genuine and have integrity. If not, people see through that quite a bit, and then they will either way not come and purchase your product. Robert, you have something to say about this, I know.
Yeah, I think for me, the retail space, as I've seen it, I used to work in retail in a previous life, and I can say retail is so data driven. Whenever we used to go and we are trying to negotiate with the commercial managers for all these big retailers, and you've gone there with your pitches, telling them that you need more space and you need more this, and you're doing this campaign. And then they just open their laptop there and show you, your product is not selling because of X, Y, Z. They have so much data that they use to make decisions. You leave that office humble. And I think this is also an example of where data was used. This campaign was actually being run by Carrefour, and they were trying to spur up or maybe improve the amount of online sales that their customers were doing, especially for the middle and lower income sectors. And what they did is they developed this innovative campaign and spoke in the language of those particular segments. So you can see there, you have things like, and for example, a brand, and when you think about it, why this campaign was so impactful and so genius for that matter. Carrefour had before this been seen sort of like an elitist brand, maybe more so because of where it was located and maybe just the general perception that we have as Africans. If something has come from outside, it's much, much better than what we have. But using this form of communication, they were able to connect with their audiences and dramatically increase the amount of downloads that are there for their app to date. I remember what caught my attention about this is they had one billboard along Gong Road, right?
Yeah.
And the message around that was, is omena seafood? And maybe the people can let us know in the chat section whether omena is seafood, right? And I found that so funny that the minute I got home, I downloaded the app, right? And this campaign actually, because I know the agency that did this, they're called the Digital Monkeys, it actually won an award just because of the innovation. And when you think about the thought process, it's not that complicated, right? It's just trying to think and putting yourself in the context of your customer and your target audience and solutioning for that. So I can see Edward is very passionate about Omena, so I will not
Say no more.
say no more.
Oh my God, I love
Yeah.
it. Yeah, you're absolutely right. How are you connecting with your audience? What is it that they would want? Yes, you want to try and push something, which is your product and your brand or your services and so on. But is it something that your customers would want? How is it that you're creating the awareness? And if it's discounts, what kind of target audience are you then attracting? Right. So again, that's a thing that you need to think about. Like for example, this is a Loop festival or Loop. It's in finance, right? And what they were trying to do is one, connect with local collaborations of local other brands on how they can be able to then attract customers towards themselves. So Butter then also benefits as well as Loop also benefits, right? But again, there's a particular segment that they were looking at for this campaign that they ran. Okay. I'll give another example as we wind up. So there's two examples in here that I was asking around. I was like, okay, so technologically, what are some of the brands that you really like? So we love to hate Safaricom, but we cannot live without M-Pesa. And M-Pesa as an app is like a really brilliant app, right? So if you don't even have the Safaricom app, you want to have the M-Pesa app to start like checking how are you using or utilizing money. You can get your Fulizas, you can get your loans or something like that. I'm on Fuliza quite a few times, especially when I haven't, transferred money or something. But I don't have cash money. I have M-Pesa money, right? And so this is one of those technological brands that came up as on its own, how it actually helps to even show someone's name. Whereas if you do it on a USSD, it doesn't come up, for example, right? So, and another brand that came up for there were two brands that came up, but one of them was Google and Gemini specifically as an AI product or an AI tech. And how people are utilizing it. And if you notice nowadays, when you do a Google search for anything, the first part of the Google search, what comes up is what Gemini has to say about what you've actually put into the search term. And I love it because it has so many different links to it. So you can put a link and you can see the reference to how they're actually putting that information together. So those are a couple of things that have come up again from listening to customers, testing things out. So even as your brand, don't mind to actually keep testing items that are coming up for you. And obviously, your customers can, if you ask them, your customers will give you the information. All right. If you ask them genuinely and say that, look, I care and I want to make this better. Do you prefer this in blue or red? For example, I mean, it's a really simple example to give. But even then they'll be like, oh, actually, I prefer purple. And there's 10 other people who say exactly the same thing. And so now you know that as part of product development, we need to put a purple phone, for example, right? So these are just a couple of brand examples under different industries that are there. And as part of our thank you, staying even a little past the time, obviously we're completely winding up now, is we've got some free resources for everybody who's in this call and who've actually joined us. We've got some resources around creating a calendar. So it's going to be chargeable soon from our website, but we're giving it for free to everybody that's in here. We have a campaign steps to follow as a free resource to give to you as well. So a whole bunch of resources. We'll also be emailing this to you, but kindly please put it on the chat. I don't know, Judy, are you the one who's been putting it on the chat? Kindly please put it on the chat. And of course, just to remind you, what's next is our next webinar, which is end of February, 26th of February. We're talking about consumer behaviors and how to increase your sales. We have an entire workshop around how to improve marketing efforts to generate leads more effectively. So, it's going to be practical session, physical practical session. This is a physical event. I think what we need to put into this poster is that it's going to be a physical event. It's not a virtual event. And of course, if you want to join Wylde International tomorrow between 11 and 1 on Zoom to plan your business for succeeding this year in 2025, please, feel free to do that. Again, those are in the chat. We'd love to hear your feedback. Kindly spare a minute, and we'd love to hear what you have to say about our content today, how we've put it together, anything that you'd like us to improve. anything you want to hear from us as well, you know, scan this code or click on the link that has been provided on the chat. I cannot see the link. Let's see. I cannot see the link. But yeah, please feel free to like scan and put something for us. We've got our contact details. We'll be able to do that. Ask us questions, right? We've got a whole bunch of questions that we can answer for you, you know, pull that out for us. Yeah, and as we're winding down, Robert, is there any last comments that you have to say to the participants today? Wonderful participants.
Mine is just to thank for starters Ardy Marketing for partnering with Wylde on this particular webinar. I think for us, being part of the Sandbox, this really embodies what we do at the Sandbox, and that is collaborating to ensure that we can create better solutions. So I'm really grateful to the Ardy Marketing team, starting with Reema, and a lot of other people who I don't think you guys can see, but have worked tirelessly to make sure that everything that happens here goes on successfully. Let me also thank Diana, our moderator. You have been a gem and also a very big risk taker, but we love you for that. Yeah, so thank you so much. I'd also like to thank the audience. I do know that it's a cold, you know, evening, and wherever you're from, you know, maybe you come from work, maybe you're cooking dinner, maybe you're hanging out with your kids, but somehow you spared some time to join us this evening. So I really appreciate and thank you for that. As I mentioned, I'm from Wylde International, the logo that you can see on your screen, and at the bottom left of the screen and at the top right of my screen. We help SMEs make better decisions. Make sure that you follow us on all our social media pages, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Drop us a line at any point in time. We'll be sure to respond. Keep engaging with us. The year has just started. We have quite a number of activities that are geared towards supporting you. So stay tuned, and thank you all once again.
Absolutely. Diana, over to you. Thank you so much. Thanks, Robert. Thank you, Robert and the Wylde team for actually being part of this with us. We're absolutely delighted to have you guys over here. We will be sharing a recording of this. So Wylde can also share that on their side, but we'll also be sharing the link for the recording as well. Great. Over to you, Diana.
All right, thank you, Reema. Sorry about that. All right, I think it. Sorry about that. So as we close, maybe just one last question before we release people, and this is, what's the step-by-step process to curate a marketing strategy that aligns with your business? And this question is by Cory Babunga. Thank you so much for joining.
All right, can you repeat that question, please?
What's the step-by-step process to curate a marketing strategy that aligns with your business?
Wonderful. So the step-by-step, the literal first step is, what is your objective that you're trying to achieve, right? So understand the business objective and then come into the marketing aspect. So put that objective in there on who is your target audience and what is the solution that you're providing to them. And understand that target audience in a very in-depth way. Again, we will not stress that enough, even before you start creating content. If you understand your target audience and their pain points and their challenges and their needs, you'll be able to then curate and understand. So again, one part of the understanding of the target audience is, what are the channels that you can find them at? And those are questions you can be able to ask your customers. Are they on Facebook? Are they on Instagram? Are they constantly on TikTok? You know, where are they going to be at? Physically, where can you find them? One of the reasons why it's important for us to find to know if you have a child or not is your patterns. If you have a child, sometimes, a lot of times you'll find that you'll go on a weekend, whether it's a Saturday or Sunday, to a mall and have your child play in the mall while you do shopping. So again, if that is your target audience, that's where you want to be, even physically on that Sunday, letting people know that, hey, by the way, this is the product that we have for you guys, right? And so understanding your target audience is your first step. Then, of course, you want to say, what is it that you want to achieve from a particular, whatever that campaign is, or whatever that is that you want to achieve for that year? Is it followership? Is it conversions? Is it brand awareness? And of course, brand awareness is created from understanding like where you're at right now and where do you want to be at the end of the year. So putting measurable or smart goals and smart KPIs to be able to achieve. Once you've done that, you can be able to then go another step and say, okay, fine, these are the particular tactics or events or activities that we will do to achieve this particular KPI that or marketing goal that we have. Put your budgets together. Make sure that you have budgets for everything, get those approved. And then finally, it's putting everything into action. And then after the action, come back and check against what you had an objective for. That did you achieve it or not? And if you achieved it, that's great. What worked and what didn't work? And if you didn't achieve it, what worked and what didn't work? And how can you improve it the next time? So that's your step-by-step marketing plan, done in a really basic way. But of course, some of the other things that you can put into the entire thing is research. So research is what worked in the previous campaign. Research can also include understanding what are your competitors doing, not because you want to copy it, but also just an ear on the ground to see what is it that, like what are the consumers actually attracted to. Research also includes what are the trends and behaviors of your customers or your particular target audiences as well. All right, so I'm hoping that really did help. Over to you.
Yes, it did. Thank you so much, Reema, for that. I will not keep you here any much longer. Thank you so much for joining us, for making the time. I know you have very busy schedules. Feel free to engage with us. Links are in the chat box. Please, 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 if you liked the session, or if you feel there's areas of improvement, please leave us a review. We'll make sure to incorporate that in the next the next series of webinars we have and our workshop as well. My key takeaway from this has been your consumers are looking for a connection. You're not just selling a product, you're also selling like they want to buy into your vision. They want to see a reflection of their values and who they are. And I think that's a very interesting angle to look at marketing from. So looking forward to having you guys join us for the next series of webinars just to further understand consumer behavior. So thank you so much. Feel free to engage with us and have a lovely evening.
Thank you.
Thank you
everybody.
so much, guys.
Have a good night. Thank you.